Hello and welcome to Faith with Flavor. With the end of the year comes a time of reflection. We reflect on what we did, what we didn't do, and what we hope to do next year to reach our goals. But when I look back at this past year, my heart becomes filled with gratitude and joy. For me, 2015 was an amazing year because my dream came true of having my own talk show, and I am able to share it with all of you, the viewers. Being the host of Faith with Flavor is one of the greatest joys of my life. So today, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all the faithful viewers out there that watch the show week to week. I also want to give a huge thanks to all the guests who were a part of the first year of the show. Together, we made history. And I leave you with a little piece of each episode for you to reflect on. Take a look at the best of Faith with Flavor 2015. How did you come up with TBN Salsa?
It happened right there on the air on TBN proper, at a Praise the Lord program where I was speaking and participating with Matt and Lori. And Matt looks at me and said, why don't we launch a network together? And I said, why don't we? And he says, what should we name it? And I went, why don't we name it TBN Salsa? And now, truth be told, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't like a prophetic impartation descended upon me. It was more like TBN Salsa. And Matt said, I love it. And here we are. But it is salsa, right? Because salsa is not just a dance, it's the mixture. So it's the multi-generational, multi-ethnic mixture of the reality of the Latino community, of the Hispanic community. So and by the way, we're adding some spice to the American Christian church. Yes. So we are TBN Salsa on steroids.
Today we are getting an exclusive look into the buzz that TBN Salsa is making.
TBN Salsa is a good way to show the many faces and the many colors, like a rainbow, of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
I think TBN Salsa, what it does is that gives Latino leaders the opportunity to present a different side that has been alive for so many years, but maybe not present to the world. And TBN Salsa, what it does is give us a platform to show that to the world.
When I watch it, I'm so proud. I'm so many things because it's like putting an explosion together of who God is and who Latinos are.
It's been 30 years now. Mm-hmm. We've been reaching the inner city through rallies for 30 years now, but I was at 17 years old when I heard that calling.
Life is not about a choice or a health decision that women make. This is a life that God breathed into, and they have a purpose and a meaning and a being for being here on this earth. If we can be able to get our minds around the fact that that human being within us has a life to live, we can't see it as a choice of ours to be able to end it, because life and death is only in the hands of the living God.
Leah. Her name is Leah.
Hi, I'm Allie Woodard, founder and president of Fristers. Fristers, which stands for Friends and Sisters, is dedicated to breaking the cycle of poverty and abuse within the teen mom population by providing them and their children with education, access to resources, role models, and support. Every year, over 400,000 teenagers give birth in the United States. Imagine being 16 years old with a baby, no high school diploma, no job, no driver's license or car, and no one to help you.
How did Divine Ministries first get started?
Divine Ministry came out of Jamie Ortiz's story, and she's a sister of mine now. And it really was a prompting from God that coming out of her story to create a ministry that actually goes into strip clubs and just shows the love of Jesus.
I was in that world for 3 years, and I didn't see a way out. I found that 3 years in, God actually sought me, and He has made me feel whole.
10 years ago, this is what I did, and this is how I got through it. And it's interesting how God places you with people whose stories are unique and very similar to yours.
My mom was a single mom as well for a lot of my life, so she just was busy, so a lot of it I didn't see. As I got older in my teenage years, I kind of thought my mom was, just being an overbearing mom, because she would always be crying and yelling and screaming, and I didn't know what was going on. And when I became older, I looked back and I'm like, oh, she was struggling, she was fighting. I mean, we watched a lot of TV, we ate a lot of fast food just because she didn't have the energy to do anything. She didn't feel comfortable to go to these social events, so we just kind of stayed in. And I don't want to say I had a bad childhood, I had some great experiences, but I look now at my kids and there's a lot of things that I really think that kids could benefit from, that parents who are tired and struggling with these things, they don't get to enjoy. You don't get the best of their parents, and I probably didn't get the best of my mom because she was battling this stuff.
He wasn't my focus anymore. I changed my focus, and I placed that energy and that focus into Christ, and I allowed God to do the work in him.
And somehow, you know, during one of those meetings, God grabbed a hold of him.
Well, you know, he would go to church with me, and he would drink a bottle of booze before he'd go. He said that he would see 2 or 3 pastors preaching when he'd go to church.
Oh, wow, tell the truth.
My name is Brian. I'm 24 years old, and I come from the streets of Skid Row. For 4 months, I was homeless, sleeping in a tent, getting high with friends. And all I can hear is that, I'm looking for a drummer. I'm supposed to find my drummer here. I'm looking for a worship leader. And when I heard that, by me being high and just all messed up, I stuck my head out the tent and said, hey, I play the drums.
As we met Brian last week on the row out here, and we're about to take him home. He's about to get a new house, get himself cleaned up, help him get a job. And I'm just excited to see what God's going to do in this young man's life. And this is a pretty awesome thing. And Brian, I'm just glad you're making this step, man. I'm glad you're making this step.
Ready to.
So he just gave up his tent, so he's about to get in the car. Watch him.
How do you guys ensure that these people are drawn closer to God?
So as somebody's accepted into the program, right then and there in their freshman phase, they're already starting a curriculum called Design for Discipleship. Okay. And everybody's assigned a case manager, and that case manager will work through with that student what their program is going to look like. And part of that is just drawing closer to the Lord. And so they're getting into their word. That case manager might give them assignments. They might have them look up keywords or answer any questions that a student might have in regards to their faith.
My name's Art Garcia, and I ran from God's call on my life. It was never my dream to even work here at the Rock. It was kind of one of those Ephesians 3:20 moments where God said, I'll do exceedingly abundantly above all that you could ask or even think or even dream of. So I can't even tell you that I had the guts to be able to dream big enough to work on staff here, much less be a pastor here at the Rock.
Welcome to Spirit Grow. I'm Amy Mitchell, and I'm so excited. I'm in one of my absolute favorite vintage stores here in Orange County. It's a place where they take old things and turn them into new. There's a lot of things that we can come out of, but it's important to remember that there will be a time and there'll be a season of refurbishing. There'll be a season of taking apart so that we can put it back together again. Some sanding a little bit. It's not always a comfortable experience to be put back together again, but the end result is something beautiful to look at. I look at all these beautiful things that are here and I wonder, what did they look like before they were put on display? Well, I'd have to ask, what did your life look like?
So let's talk about a little bit about how your business helps the less fortunate.
I give a percentage of all sales through Glaudi, House of Glaudi, and Glaudi Bridal. So if you shop my collection at glaudicollection.com, that's the way I'm able to build schools and help kids less fortunate in Latin America, in Mexico also, but in El Salvador is where I built the school. Out in the area where my mom was raised, it was very poor and they don't have much there. It's just one school that brings them food, basic essentials, and I've been able to provide for them computers too with the help of friends and people that shop that.
Besides the speaking component of your ministry, what else do you feel is your gift to the world?
You know, I've taken my messages and I've put them into book form with Revolutionary. And so one of my passions and one of what I feel a real gift is being able to allow the audience to dream for a minute and to understand what they can do if they put limitations aside. And if they tapped into the revolutionary DNA that is inside of all of us as believers and what God wants to accomplish in and through us.
So then what happened after you were homeless?
I met this girl. I went through that for like 2 years, and I met this girl, and one day she asked me, she goes, how come you always wear the same clothes and I never seen where you live? And I broke down, I started crying, straight up, I was 15, whatever. And I just told her, my parents left me, I don't got a place, this is what it is. So her dad, it was kind of funny, was actually a pastor for a church.
Wow.
For a Calvary church. And he ended up taking me in the home, and he said, you can live here. But he goes, if you live in this house, you got to hear the word of God.
How did you get to that point where you weren't blaming God anymore and you were sold out for him and you started serving him?
I was spoken over just when I was a little boy, and going through this disease, going through all these surgeries. A woman spoke over my life when I was just a little kid, saying that I was gonna do music and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that same word that was spoken over me as a kid, it kind of just opened up a light for me.
You started this new ministry known as the Whosoevers, and you guys are really all about welcoming people in whatever state of life they're in, no matter how they are. Basically, like, come as you are.
Yep.
Tell me how you found that in your ministry.
We just found in our ministry, just from the backgrounds that we came out of, the people that have founded it, Sonny Sandoval, the lead singer from POD, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
We came from backgrounds of broken families and drug addiction and self-harm and stuff like that. And once we got saved, we realized there's this huge community of people around the world that are pretty much left for dead. It's a messy ministry.
So how do you keep it spicy? Because, you know, being married for 7 years, there has to be something that goes on, you know, to keep it fresh and alive, right?
We were just talking about this. I thought I was reading about statistics, the 7th year of marriage. And that's kind of the turning point for a lot of marriages, where they decide if they're going to stay together or not, sadly enough. They call it the 7-year itch. And some people scratch the itch, some people ignore it. You know what I mean?
When I broke up with him, he decided that he didn't want to lose me. He realized that I wasn't whistling Dixie like my mom says. And he ended up coming to church, not for God. He came because of me, because he didn't want to lose me. He thought I would meet this nice young man of God in church.
Tell the truth.
But he came because he was jealous. And he wanted people to see that I had a man. But the man that I really had was Christ. It wasn't him anymore.
What would you say kept you guys from, you know, separating in the hard times?
Well, as in marriage, right? I think the biggest thing is this, is Shanna is not just my wife, but she's also my best friend. And I know that kind of sounds, you know, basic, but it really means a lot, because, you know, we made a commitment that, you know, our goal is not to in a sense, problem-proof our marriage, but to build a strong relationship in our marriage.
What kind of advice can you guys, the older generation, give us, the younger generation, to kind of cope with those communication differences?
Women tend to speak in code. It's like for some reason we think that men should understand what we're trying to imply. And my encouragement to women is just to be real and to speak basic, and to just keep it simple. When you're trying to relay something to your husband, keep it really simple and basic. Don't speak in code. Don't try to get him to pick up on the clues you're trying to give to him, because he's not going to do it.
Brian, you were once an atheist. What caused you to have that way of thinking?
Well, I got saved 8 years ago. It was September 9th, I believe, 2007, and this guy invited me to church, and he said, if you come to my church, I'll buy you a Jamba Juice. And so I went, and that night
Gotta have Jamba Juice, huh?
Yes, and he'd been asking me for a long time, you want to come to church? You want to come to church? And I said, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And when he pulled the Jamba Juice card, I said, I'm in, pick me up. So I go that night, and I'm in the back of this youth group room. I'm 16 years old, and I tell the Lord, I says, I don't know if you exist, God. I don't know, they say you died on a cross, but if you're real, touch me. And that night I felt the Holy Spirit just encounter my life. Didn't know what it was at the time. And he brings me to the front, and I'm weeping, and I received Jesus. And that night, everything changed for me. It wasn't, some people hear stories of maybe like they went through a process of things. And for me, it was one night, encountered the Lord, and everything shifted and changed. And about a year, maybe a year and a half later is when I started going into high schools.
Today we are going to listen to a story of a young man who grew up with a Muslim father. Listen to how everything he was taught led him to believe that Jesus was the real Messiah and true Son of the living God.
I think the biggest thing is, a lot of Muslims will say they believe in Jesus. And it's like, well, what makes us different? What makes a Christian different than a Muslim? Mm-hmm. It's simple. Mm-hmm. Jesus is the Son of God. But in Islam, what their context of who Jesus was a good man. He was a great teacher, and he was a great prophet. The Muslims don't actually believe Jesus died on the cross. Mm-hmm. They believe it actually was an imposter. It was someone, a Jewish man, who imposed to be Jesus, and he died on the cross. They actually believe Jesus is going to come back at the end of times, but he's going to wipe out mankind and lead the Islamic religion.
Wow.
But we believe Jesus, he died, but he's alive now.
Yes.
He ascended into heaven, and it's through him that we are abided with him in his resurrection power, which we get to experience this life.
My heart and my prayer, Lord, if you can use me at any level to encourage and connect with women, beauty,
yes.
Conversation of beauty can connect with women.
Oh, yeah.
Any woman, really, whether you're a tomboy or a girly girl.
Yes.
So a conversation is the beginning of a relationship, and beauty is a great conversation. So my prayer, Lord, use me to impact this generation of women, to lead them in freedom. In a travel bottle, too.
Oh, that's good. So you can put it in your bag when you're going on your date. And actually, my favorite, when you take off your hat and you have hat hair, hello.
It works for guys, too, that one. And that one you put in your carry-on bag when you're traveling.
Yeah, you can fly with it.
Instantly zhuzhes the hair.
What do you feel is the role of a God-fearing Latina in today's society?
The question alone gets me kind of fired up, because culturally there's just so much that is inbred in us from the moment we're born, I feel like. But as Latino women in the faith, really bringing back passion into the church is what I think, especially with my generation and first and second generation Latin women, really bringing in that passion and that fire and that just believing in the power of God and that he can do all things.
Teen Challenge, there's multiple phases along the road of completing the actual Teen Challenge, discipleship program, and each level that you go through, you are given more opportunities to serve, more opportunities to mentor, more opportunities to step out and to develop the giftings that God has placed within you as an individual. And because of that, people that are just coming into Teen Challenge, who are lost, who've never been trusted with anything of value within themselves, are now given opportunities to really embrace who God has called them to be, with people who are there serving in the capacity that God has called them to, alongside them, so that there's room to fail properly, there's room to grow, and there's room to really be developed.
Today on the show is Nick Bravo, a self-made entrepreneur. He's here to give us tips on how to start your own business and be successful at it. Now, besides being an entrepreneur, you're also a rapper.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm a lot of things. So I'm not.
So how did you discover that gift of being a rapper?
So it all kind of happened at the same time. So I started with God used me, and I think God thought it was funny. I'll use a suburban kid to rap, right? I could listen to Eminem back in the day and like Dr. Dre and stuff. But I remember sitting there and I started writing poetry. Started with poetry. Now I'm 16 years old. I just became Christian, but I still like girls, and I'm thinking like, they're gonna think I'm weak if I write poems. But I started writing poems. I started writing lots of poems, and then pouring my heart out, and I started realizing I was really good at it. And I remember at some point I felt like God put out my heart that I needed to read it in front of my high school. So by junior year, everybody knew me as a class clown. But by junior year, everybody heard at the Battle of the Bands, right? This is SD Live. This is when everybody's like, this is the cool stuff. People doing hip-hop dance routines and band stuff, and Bravo's gonna do a poem? Like, oh, I wanna see this.
Yeah.
And so I remember being like, man, God, I can't believe you asked me to do this. I'm gonna ruin my entire reputation. So I stand up at probably 17 years old, stand up in front of 500 people, their families, at a public high school, and read a poem about Jesus.
Take me through the process of how a woman, gets rescued and then she starts making this jewelry. Take me through that process.
Sure. Well, if you offer a survivor, a victim at that point of trafficking, hey, come into this job, come to this sanctuary, we'll do some counseling, we'll do some group therapy, she's going to say no, absolutely not. She is traumatized. She doesn't have any ability to trust. Why would you? And so it's really a on-the-job healing, so to speak. And she needs money. Money is obviously very, enticing, and it's non-threatening. It's empowering. And so to be able to come into the sanctuary, into the program, and learn a skill of jewelry making, earning, and developing relationships with sisters alongside that have similar experiences, seeing an older woman that has been where you've been, recently rescued, and then several years down the road, she's going to law school, or she's doing the bookkeeping, or she's in leadership processing the orders and exporting. It's been a really, really effective program.
What do you do when the one place that is supposed to be your shelter and place of refuge is actually a place of calamity and fearful living? That was the case for today's guest, Amy Mitchell, who at an early age battled with every kind of abuse in her home.
You feel the scars to the bone, and no place feels like home.
What were you expecting people to get out of that song?
I wrote I think every artist is about the lyrics, and I wanted it to really reach people that had gone through some of the things that I had experienced as a child, or even coming out of abusive relationships. They kind of we tend to hold on to grudges, which actually doesn't affect just us, it affects everyone around us. So Open the Door was written to kind of help people to look away from all that, look away from all the hurt that you may have gone through, look away from maybe some shame that you have, and look up to God, because He really is the answer.
What kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Well, I want people, when they remember me, to say, she taught us how to walk out the Word. That's what I want. I want people to know how the Word of God can permeate every aspect of your life. So whether it's physical, relational, spiritual, emotional, the Word of God is there to help you put feet to your faith. And that's what I like to do. I do it with everything. I do it with money. I have anchor scriptures that I use for every major area of my life. I have them ready. I put them, I frame them in 5x7 frames, and I do everything I can. I have them on my treadmill.
More than 1/3 of Americans are considered to be obese. Today we are here at Anaheim Excel to find tips on staying active.
Seconds, go.
Adrian is devoted to seeing people excel in the area of physical fitness.
Sometimes we forget about our own health or to take responsibility of it. So exercise is gonna be able to prevent any kind of coming diseases that could potentially come on over time over your life.
Well, let's talk about diet. I think that's something that we all struggle with. We all have our vices and the things that we really, really like. Chocolate. So how do you encourage somebody when it comes to diet?
Especially with moms, you have no time, and it comes down to prep. So we really push something called food prep. Now this is on different levels for everyone, but it's setting a menu, setting a plan, knowing what you're gonna have, so you don't run into that 8:30 at night and you have to go to Del Taco because you have nothing ready. Have dinner primarily made ahead of time. Do it all on a Sunday or Saturday. Involve the family, get them cooking with you, but don't leave it to chance, because I eat healthy, but if I have the choice between chocolate or cooking food, I'm gonna eat chocolate too. I have no willpower, so know your weaknesses, prepare for them, and plan, and then it gives you more time for your family as well.
We have 100 Paul Mitchell associates for any of the kids that want to get their hair cut and styled. And then the best burger, bar none, not just in California and America, if not the world, truly In-N-Out hamburger.
And for one of the founders of the Fred Jordan Missions, servanthood is what it's all about.
I want these precious moms and kids to know that they're special. They matter. They're the poor, the underclass. Most people never see them, certainly never hear their voice. I want to be the voice for them because today people are caring.
The Bible talks a lot about giving. You know, it's
Yes.
written all over the Bible.
Yes.
How do you incorporate giving into your finances?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking it because there are 3 levels of giving: tithes, offerings, and alms. Tithes, offerings, and alms. So the tithe I give the 10% of my gross income to the church. I give over and above that to various ministries or special program at church. And then there's the alms, ALMS, alms. Those are the good deeds I do for other people. And God says when you consider the poor, you are lending to the Lord. Isn't that great? So awesome. And some people may say, listen, I can hardly survive. I can't give tithes, offerings, and alms. Do what you can. I believe your tithe is commanded. I do, for me personally, and my husband and I have been married 36 years. We've never not paid our tithes. And because of that, I believe we have never had to pay a bill late. We've never lost a car. We've never lost a house. We've never lost anything.
How do you teach your children to be givers?
You model it. So much of this is caught, not taught. And I found that when my kids observe something that I'm doing or something that my wife is doing, they'll come back to us day, week, months later with their own idea, or they'll just tell us, hey, I ended up doing this, I ended up doing that. And we find that there's just such a power on the science side of the discovery of what happens when kids, when they're younger, observe generosity. They have a high likelihood of living the rest of their life as generous people.
Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for watching Faith with Flavor and for being a part of what God is doing right here on this beautiful set that I get to call my second home. Please email me your comments. Maybe you have a favorite show you watched or a praise report you'd like to share with me. I would love to hear what you have to say. Also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. God bless you. Have a happy new year. And my prayer for you in 2016 is Philippians 3:13. That you can forget whatever is past and look forward to what lies ahead. See you next year. God bless you. Bye-bye.